love to introduce everybody to, in the footsteps of Martin, a conversation with African American males.
I first want to say in the most respectful way for everybody, what's up? I think that it would be prudent upon us in our own lives to have conversations that can affect change tangibly in the lives of those folks that happen to look like the challenged party. Whether that challenged party is women, whether that challenged party is the less or disenfranchised, or in this particular case of conversation about African American males. And what better day to do such a conversation than on the day that this country has decided to celebrate Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Sign me up for the Christian Jubilee. Sign my name on the law. Prepare a place for me. Sign me up for the Christian Jubilee.
I want to thank the Lord for all.
Sign my name on the law. Prepare a place for me. Heaven. I long to see.
I'm talking about
heaven. Means so much to me. Heaven. Everybody's talking about heaven.
I remember when it came across the news, hearing my mother scream. Scream. We were living in the projects and in Syracuse, and she screamed and just said, "They killed him. They killed him." And my father was upstairs sleeping because he was working. She said, "Go and tell your daddy." They had to go and tell Daddy, Dr. King, he's dead. And he just sat on the side of the bed. And I will never forget that, because I'm like, why does this man, who is this man that had, I was, 7 years old. Who is this man that had such an effect on my mother that she is crying as if she knew him?
And he helped unite poor whites and poor blacks, and realized that there was no difference between us, that we were one, and that if we were blinded by this matrix, this society, that's telling us that you guys have, you have privilege over here because you don't look this way. Once we start forgetting all of that, and we start looking at systems and the way systems perpetuate difference on an economic basis, we start to see that we are one, and that we do come together, and that we have more similarities than differences. So I would say that his legacy was really to eliminate the color lines and talk about social and economic injustice.
Really want to be able to dig into the mindset of our people, because that's where it all starts at home, and then also to continue to raise the awareness and consciousness of everyone else. People of color. I don't like saying black and white. That's really political terms, but it's okay for the sake of the conversation. But it's all about education and really just helping to, like I said at the beginning, even the playing field, and help people understand that once you know who you are, it really does make a difference.
I've always known that I was part of the only club. Right? I was part of the only club. I was the only black person in this. I was the only black person in that. I was the only one in the room. I was the only one on the board. And I call it the only club. Right? So share with us, if you will, what you believe is the challenge or benefit, if you will, to being part of that only club, if in fact that's actually happened to you as well.
And I was in the only club, but it wasn't for the black, all right? It wasn't because I was black. It was more of, I was in the only club, well, because I was a dancer and a good football player. but I was the only football player that would cheerlead him during basketball season. So just felt that I could, if I'm in this only club, so what? But then I also went to an all-white school, and that's where I experienced a little bit of that only club. But I took with me that same kind of attitude that I had being the only cheerleader. So it was like, I'm still going to be who I am. You know, I might be the only person here. Well, okay, that's fine. Hey, I'm the only one, so I get more attention. I'm the only. Look, I have 8 sisters. I'm the only boy.
Wow.
So me being the only in that only club, I was kind of used to it, and it was like, okay, you're gonna look at me. I'm gonna give you something to look at now.
I needed to get some balance. I needed to sit in the classroom among my peers and have educators teach me that looked like me. And it was necessary for me because I needed to be deflated. Because being in the only club sometimes, or being the only one in that environment, you know, you start thinking a little bit more highly of yourself than you ought to think. You know, I knew I could sing. I knew I could speak well. I knew I could do that. When I got to Tuskegee and walked into here and I was on a vocal scholarship, so I walk into the Golden Voices Concert Choir of Tuskegee Institute. And I walked in, you know, like I can handle mine. And when the director said, and the sound that came out, I was like, oh no.
There's so much more to what can be done. And we made a lot of progress, but a lot of progress needs to be made. But it's really about raising consciousness, raising the awareness about knowledge, being educated about who you really are. Once you know who you really are, the racism thing will disappear. Because really, I mean, we're all kind of like the same person. Not really.
I would actually differ in opinion in the sense that I think that it's a benefit to highlight difference. You know, we're so stuck in society where it says, you know, we live in a colorless society. Nonsense. We don't live in a colorless society. And if you tell me that you don't see color, my alarm goes up. Because I love my color. I embrace my color. I enjoy my color. And I went to an all-white college, and I lived this dual life where at night when I was, you know, coming home after having fun and hanging out with friends, rich friends, you know, Donald Trump's kids, and, you know, these were the type of kids that I went to school with. You know, I was walking up the hill to school while they were driving Porsches past me, waving, right? And then I would come home and I would dodge bullets running from the train station into my apartment. That difference in life molded me into who I am.
Said, we will grandize and deify Dr. King. But Dr. King was a normal man, put his pants on like mine, tied his shoes, you know, had his girl Coretta. I'm sure they talking about, you spent that much? I'm sure, I mean, just like us, but he took the opportunities that were presented to him and did some supernatural things. He did some things that just make us stand in awe. But we all have that capacity to do it. He didn't have any more, wasn't given anything far greater than anybody in this room, than these young men that stood up here and sang, than anybody, than any of our children. But what we've done is we put him there and say, he had the dream. Well, what's yours?
Right.
What are you doing?
Reach out.
What are you doing to make a difference? Don't create him as this iconic that you then trivialize your contribution on this earth. You got something to do.
Right? And Dr. King died when he was 39.
Right.
Absolutely. 39. So imagine if he had lived on. But my point is, at the age of 39, look at what he accomplished. Look at what he was doing in his 20s.
Absolutely.
And our kids, oftentimes, we don't think about tomorrow. We think about today, we live for the moment. And I ask that you guys think about tomorrow and next year and the year after that, because you're late. You're already late. You're already late. And it doesn't knock away or do away with any of the accomplishments that you've already done, but if Dr. King did what he did at the age of 39, you are already late.
Talk about it.
It's time for us to step it up. I just made a post. I said, what is my legacy? I'm doing something. Should have been done already. On to the next thing. I've done a lot of things. What is going to be your legacy? What is going to be your calling? We're finding out too late. Now, as a culture, as a people, we're finding out too late, and we have to find out early.
What are you gonna do when you grow up? Well, you're growing up now. Like it's happening now. Like that's when you should. What steps are you taking to build that legacy? And then who are you looking up to help guide you to that? I always had someone. I was fortunate enough to always have someone, a male that looked like me, that helped carry me to that next place that I needed to be. And it was always something that was just like, this is amazing. I didn't know it at the time. And how important it really was. But I believe that is something that is missing from our youth. There's really no one there. Well, there's not enough men of color turn around and say, come on, fellas, let's go. This is how you do it. And
I sing the song of movement, of action is the ingredient to make it happen. And I will add to the notion about having examples. Auburn had a mass exodus. Like, and some of my mentors are over here, right? There was a mass exodus, and as I look at two particular black women over here, when I say this, this will mean something. I know it will. Auburn had a lot of black men of accomplishment that I got to look at. But by the time I was 14, they were gone. For whatever reason, right, Tia? Like they were gone. There was a mass exodus. All of a sudden, I had no example. And it seemed like an entire generation that was doing junior achievement in Dale Carnegie decided it was only about getting the girls. And they were very successful at that. I wasn't so hot at it. I was everybody's friend. Now, you know you hate to be their friend. But there was a mass exodus, and that mass exodus created a big obstacle. But it also created an opportunity, right? By the failures that I was getting more successful because I kept fighting for that. It was so that got me through it, right? Because at the end of the day, I either wanted to go someplace or I didn't. And I hung out with successful people. That was it. And so I have this saying that says, you are the people you hang around.
Absolutely.
I hung around successful people. And they said, hey, where are you going to college? And this one said, I'm going here. And hey, where are you going to college? And this one said, they're going here. And they said, Sean, where are you going to college? I was like, Purchase. Because it was the only college I heard of. I was like, and the next day, I went to Seymour Library because that's where the only place you could go to research. And I had to look up what Purchase was.
Yeah.
You know? And then literally I started doing the work. And because I had said it out loud and was afraid that I was going to be called a liar, I got to Purchase.
I want to really commend you because you put it together. You made it a difference. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. You know, I've been here since 2001. And a lot of people, and I was taught this, people talk about it or can be about it. Lonnie Love taught me that. Well, you do it, right? You don't talk about it, right? You be about it. And that is what we all need to do. Will Berry, doing it, taking care of business. That's what we need to do. And the only way we're going to keep helping our youth if we all do it together.
So Dr. King, for me, was from that scream that my mother let out, it was almost like the birthing of me. It was like a labor. It pushed something in me to find out, well, what is my assignment? What am I going to do? What's my responsibility?
I teach the word so. So, you're the only one. So, your mama died. So, your father died. So, no one's there to help you. So, what are you going to do? So, you know, my father was like the black Martin Luther King of Central New York. Like, I had a lot of help. But when my father died, and then it became, so, what are you going to do? Because you're either going to swim or you're going to drown. I'm going to actually give you a quote of my father's, and I'm going to give it to you exactly as he said it to me. He said to me, Sean, if you're 23 miles away from shore and you're drowning, and you swim for 22 miles, your ass is still drowning. Your job is to get to shore.
That's right.
You know, in the discussion, and I think that that is kind of what has sometimes helped me to distance myself, not from a particular party, but from failure, right? That failure is only a rock you stand on. It's a branch that you grab on and pull on to get you to your next thing. It only becomes quicksand when you allow it to be. In order for conversation to actually be useful, it has to be actionable. And what happens a lot in our society today is there's a lot of conversation at people, right? A lot of conversation at people. We label people, the left, the right, the left, the right. But you kind of need both of them if you want to switch, right? It really is about the harmony thereof. So,
Yes, sir. I definitely feel more better about being like the different one in the crowd, like standing out, being different. It made me kind of feel more comfortable.
Knowing who we are ourselves, so that way we can better make other people of other cultures, colors, understand who we are. If we don't know ourselves, then we certainly can't. What are we preaching about?
next.
One thing that I really like stuck out to me was when you said the word that you teach is so. I say that because oftentimes people often make excuses for things that's happened in their life that prevents them from doing this or doing that, and I feel that so actually like helps with that a lot, because so what this happened or so what that happened, just do, you feel me? You know what I mean?
I do.
So I feel that so actually like stuck with me.
What we have to do, every single person in this room, like every single person in this room, has to ask yourself, what have I truly done to affect the person to my right, the person to my left, the person in front of me, and the person behind me? Because for you, that is society. Your job is to impact society, but that word is so big that it makes you feel like you don't have to. So what do you have to do to affect change in the life of the person in front of you, behind you, to the right of you, and to the left of you?
And say, well done, my good and faithful servant. Oh, come on home and rest. Sign me up for the Christian Jubilee. Sign my name on the law. Prepare a place for me. Sign me up for the Christian Jubilee. I want to thank the Lord for all. Sign my name on the law. Prepare a place for me. Heaven. I long to see. I'm talking about heaven. Means so much to me. Heaven. Everybody's talking about heaven.
In the words of Dr. King, you are the dream. May we never wake up.
If you don't give it a chance, you'll never know the glories that you can find just by trying.